Alright class, today's lesson is just going to be a follow-up of yesterday's lecture regarding what it takes to write a good romance story. But don't worry, no textbooks, no notebooks, anything like that, because I just want to coast through the day and add just a little bit to the things we discussed yesterday, because I booked this impulse flight last night that I'm so excited for. I'm going to be gone for 2 weeks, and I don't want to just stress over today. I just want to leave. I'm tired of seeing you guys, and I know by the look on some of your faces, you're tired of seeing me too. Especially you back there, Johnny. I know you don't like me, but believe me, the feeling is mutual after you fail all those tests I tried so hard to get you to pass. Even gave you the answers to one of them, and you still fucked up. I don't know how you managed that, but today, I just wanted to discuss an anime, which was recommended to me by another one of my students in another class, who just so happens to be smarter than a lot of you, but it is called Kuzu no Honkai. So Kuzu no Honkai, or what we're going to be calling Scum's Wish, follows the 17-year-old Hanabi, who is having terrible problems with her love life due to the fact that she is desperately in love with the man she refers to and introduces us to as brother. And at that point, I just turn it off. I think, you know what, it's a damn shame because it's a beautiful looking anime. We don't get too many shows animated which are romance/seinen series, and I had high hopes for this, but if it is something which caters to people who have a fetish for incest, little sister complex, big brother complex, we all know by now that this is actually a problem with anime, and it's kind of making anime look bad from my perspective anyways, because they do it more than they should. Even in non-romance stories, like what's up with Sword Art Online, for example. You know, that sort of thing. So, we see it more often than we should, but what brought me back to the show was that I remembered that she might have just been referring to him as brother, because that's kind of how they talk in Japan. If there's somebody who's around your age and you're really close to each other, then you can call them brother or sister in their language, of course, and also it works from, you know, there on. You can refer to people who are the same age as your parents as being aunt, uncle. If there's someone even older than that, you can refer to them as grandma, grandpa. That's just kind of how it works. However, I believe that if you're close to someone for that long, if you're childhood friends with somebody for such a long time as that your family is even close to the person, then you should probably be on first name basis with a person at that point, or at least just refer to them in your mind by using their first name, because that's kind of how people think. But she doesn't do that in the show. She always refers to him as brother, and I feel like they do that simply because there is actually a fetish. There is a market over there in Japan for incest, because people do have big brother, little sister complex, that sort of thing. Anyways, the reason why she cannot confess her feelings for the man she refers to as brother, even in thought, and I'm not letting that one go, is that he is actually in a relationship with another woman, and she doesn't want to interfere in that. So she bumps into, within the first episode, I'm talking like a few minutes into another character which they're just like briefly introduced to. They do skip a lot of characterization here. They do skip a lot of the character interaction as well. There's a lot of things missing in terms of, because, you know, when you're watching a romance story, one of the important things is that the characters need chemistry, but that's something which I feel is only second to the, you know, their initial characterization, which that is something which is always very important in every show. You got to have the characterization so that we learn the qualities of these characters, and then we need to learn the chemistry of, you know, the romance that we are going to be learning about as well. But here they just bump into each other within a few minutes, and they become what some would call friends with benefits, but I would just refer to them as being strangers with benefits, because they really don't have anything in common, and we see such a vague introduction to this other character. But the reason why they both get together is that he is actually in love with the woman who is dating Hanabi's person that she refers to as brother, even in thought. Now, it is getting a little bit complicated, because you have two people who are together simply because they want to be with other people who are already in a relationship, and it gets even more complicated than that. Now, it's good for a romance story in general to be complex. There's got to be some sort of struggle. There's got to be some sense of suspense involved in there as well. You don't need to get into a story, have two characters, and you know, oh, at the end of the movie or at the end of whatever, they're going to be together happily ever after. Even though that does happen a lot, you got to sweeten the pot a little bit and add a little bit of complexity to it. Maybe their personalities differ, or maybe there's someone else romantically involved in their life, but Scum's Wish takes that and just pushes the envelope right off the table and just complicates it far too much. So just to give you all an idea of how overly complicated the relationships in Scum's Wish are, I'm going to make you a diagram on the board, but there's no way that I'm going to be able to remember everyone's names because this is so complicated that Jerry Springer wouldn't even want to handle this shit. So let's go. So we have Girl A here, who is Hanabi, who is desperately in love with the guy who she refers to as brother. But the problem here is that he is actually in a relationship with this girl over here, and then we have Hanabi, who gets into sort of friends with benefits sort of relationships with this guy over here. Now, the reason why the two of those are together is because he is also desperately in love with the girl that Hanabi's so-called brother is dating. But to make this a little bit more complicated, we have another girl over here who is desperately in love with Hanabi's partner, but she hates Hanabi herself because it appears that they're in a relationship despite the fact that they're not. To make things a little bit more complicated, there's another girl down here who's also desperately in love with Hanabi herself, and Hanabi's partner is cheating on her with this other girl from school. It appears to be a one-night stand, and the love interest, or the girlfriend of Hanabi's so-called brother, even in thought, is actually cheating on him with another boy who's actually one of their students because they're old enough to actually teach there. So it's super complicated right there. Oh, come on, Timmy. You're asleep already. I haven't even been in the class for 10 minutes yet trying to teach this. But you guys, you know what? We woke up Timmy last time, but we're just going to let him sleep today because anything relating to romance is forever going to be obscure to this guy. I'm sorry, Timmy. Did I wake you up? Fuck off, you Sasquatch. Anyways, go to the office. But for the rest of you assholes who don't want to sleep through class, this is just a little bit too complicated. I think if they were to just erase like all of this right here, then that would be maybe a little bit over here too. That would be a little bit more ideal in terms of what a good romance would require in terms of being complicated with other parties. So in addition to how overly complicated the relationships in Scum's Wish are, which by the way, everything that I explained here happened within the first 3 episodes of the anime, which are regular length, 24-25 minutes each, so they're just flying through one another here. And on top of that, the characterization is just so bare bones here. It's like everyone is assigned a one-dimensional character trait and they don't really expand upon that at all. It's just moving so fast that there's also no chemistry between any of these characters here. And I know whenever we watch a romance, we want there to be chemistry between the characters, but there's just none. Like, even if it is a given that Hanabi is desperately in love with a man she refers to as brother, there should be some chemistry there. Like, why does she love him? Why does she feel this way? It's simply explained to be because he was around her for a long time and that was it. And I don't know about you, but that is just not enough to be that desperately in love with somebody that you're willing to fuck several strangers. Well, not necessarily fuck them because she's still a virgin, but they do mess around a lot. There's a lot of messing around here, and the show is very graphic in terms of that. So I think really the best selling point about this is that it's definitely doing a great job at targeting people who only want to see characters mess around in an anime, but as far as an actual romance is concerned, it is desperately lacking in that regard. So despite the fact that I've already described the characterization and character interaction as being bare bones along with the relationships being overly complicated and extremely shallow, is that I continue to watch the show, and the only thing that I felt and thought when watching the show is that I think that she is going to get feelings for this boy, and I also think that he is taking advantage and using her, basically, because he's probably just hooking up with other girls as well. And by episode 3, they already reveal the fact that she is getting feelings for him, and he is actually cheating around on her, but at the same time, she's kind of screwing around on the side as well, too. So, you know, it's just overly complicated for no reason, and I really had my hopes up that we would for once get not a relationship, not a romance anime that is incredibly realistic and down-to-earth, or a relationship, because then we would get shows titled something along the lines of that awkward moment the first time she farts in your present, or be sorry honey, I can't have sex right now because I've already masturbated 3 times a day and it is raw and hurts to have an erection. We'd get things like that if romance anime were like incredibly realistic, but there has to be an area where it just plays a little bit with your fantasy, a little bit. It just teases you just a little bit, but not too much, to the extent where it's just nothing but sensuality, and it's just nothing but graphic imagery. And I think this is the type of show that Scum's Wish is. Now, class, I've got a prediction about the show. By the time I come back, you can tell me if any of this pans out, because trust me, I'm not going to be watching any anime where I'm going. And basically, what I predict is that this is episode 3, and I've already seen so much happen by now. We have Hanabi, who has been with several people. One of these people has been with countless other people. We don't even know that yet. So I can imagine by episode 12, Hanabi would have already been through everyone at the school, and she finally comes to confess her feelings for the one she refers to as brother, even in thought. And she will come and say, I love you, but it is far too late because I've been gaped by the entire school and I'm now dripping with STDs. And that's kind of how things work, kids. Stay safe. But anyways, as far as my recommendations of the show are concerned, if you find yourself to be a fan of these 3 particular things right here, then I would have to say it's a solid recommend, because it is very vivid in its imagery and depiction of these things. It's very descriptive here. However, if you are looking for a solid romantic story, then I cannot recommend Scum's Wish, because it just doesn't offer enough. It's simply just graphic imagery, and it's not really much of a romance story. It's just overly complicated for the sake of being overly complicated. However, I will continue to watch this. I kind of like the way it looks, and it's kind of like I'm watching a train wreck at slow motion, but I may make continuous videos about this. I'm definitely going to review it. So anyways, let me know. Just write me an essay about what you think, or just leave me a short little comment on your papers. Let me know what you think about Scum's Wish, and let me know about that. You can hand in your papers. And by the way, as far as my trip is concerned, I decided to book a trip to Japan, because this anime makes me feel like if I go to Japan, I mean, if I'm there for 2 weeks, I can visit some sugar walls from around the country, and also eat a lot too, because that's some good shit over there.